All right, we'll go ahead and jump in here. And we got 11 people at the, I guess 10 people plus me. So we'll start with that. So what's happening, folks? Based on Saturday's mastermind meeting, we wanted to talk a little bit today about the foundation of messaging, just to kind of touch on those again. And yeah, and then take a look at any creative pieces that you may have currently either on your own or that your team is working on, just to see if we can kind of look at whether it's a picture, video, or written piece, and see if we can all understand what's going on with it. So we'll start off with a little bit of screen share action. Need that. All right, and I might, well, not might, I'm going to bounce around to a couple of different things. Oh, I also have an interesting little piece of ChatGPT that I played with yesterday. You guys may have already done this. In fact, let's start with that. So just to give something interesting, I went into ChatGPT and I told it, you know, here at the prompt, I'm going to give you sample emails and I want you to analyze them for writing style, tone, language. Do you understand the request? Yes, I understand. Please provide the samples. Perfect. So then what I did is I took emails that I've already written in the past for, you know, the daily Manuel stuff, and I dropped them in here one at a time. I probably could have done several at a time, but so I dropped the first one in, and you can see it gave us a nice analysis. So the writing style is conversational, casual. Author uses short sentences and paragraphs to convey the information, and so on, right? So it'll break down how your writing is done for you, right? So I gave it another one. I thought this was appropriate, that this particular one. It said the writing style of this email is attention grabbing and persuasive. Perfect, right? I feel like I can retire now that we hit that. And the third one, friendly and informative, plus everything else, right? So the tone of the email is positive and helpful. Tone is of this email is urgent and authoritative, enthusiastic and informative. So then what I had came down further. Let's see. Yeah. So now I told it, I want you to take those three writing and analysis, write me an email in that style based on, and I gave it some extra information, and it pumped out this first email for me. I didn't really like as much of it. So again, rewrite, eliminate a specific concept, add a different information in, and rewrite it. It came out with this one. And so I actually took this and used probably 80% of it in the email that came out today. So this email became this morning's email here. Now, the funny thing was, it probably did, in this case, it probably took me longer to come up with this final email by doing all that than if I had just written the email to begin with. But the concept that we can go through and we can preload it and say, here's samples of the stuff that I want you to create things in a similar fashion too, and then make adjustments from there, is very cool. And I can see how with a little bit more practice and moving forward in the future, it will save, you know, it'll definitely save some time. Or if you're working with newer clients that already have some existing material and you need something to kind of jumpstart you, it's a great way to do it there too. Has anybody already done something like this? Feel free to either throw it in the chat or open your just microphone and tell us.
Yeah, I actually do something very similar to when I do emails for Lutamax. If you guys are not familiar, Lutamax is a Luteolin and Rutulin anti-inflammatory supplement. So there's really not a whole lot of information that like common knowledge. So I'll throw it into ChatGPT and I'll kind of do something like, here's the email that I used in the, last week, can you rewrite it in a way that speaks to this particular audience? Or, how would this sound for someone that does not know what this, these supplements mean? So I almost let ChatGPT kind of create more of a benchmark or a template, and then I use that to kind of work with both my current email and my old email and work them together.
Sam, ChatGPT is great for getting ideas. Rob asked, does it work in Spanish? I think it does. I haven't tested that, but I feel like I heard somewhere it does. Alan, there you go. Alan says yes. Yeah, I don't know how many languages it does. We could probably just ask ChatGPT, how many languages do you know? Max using it exclusively for YouTube titles. Cool. Alan says it no, 19 different languages that ChatGPT can function in. Is that what you're saying, Alan? Correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Awesome. So have you used it for any of these? What, I don't know that do you do a lot of writing and stuff for your post or no?
I do mostly qual checking, and sometimes I use it just to come up with headlines or just to switch the email titles.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if Paulina does a lot of writing. I don't know if she has used it.
Okay.
No, I
No?
haven't.
Okay.
Right on.
Well, not for natural theme copies.
So it would be interesting to use this same kind of method, like to take the natural slim copy that you have and take some of like Frank's writings and things like that and load it in and say, hey, here are samples that I want you to analyze and then write me material based on those those results. And so potentially maybe we could be able to put out more. I mean, you may not need help with this, so it doesn't, in that case, it wouldn't matter, but it may be interesting to see how closely the ChatGPT can mimic Frank's presentation and tone and writing. So could be an interesting experiment. But aside from that, let's hop back. I'll share my screen again and let's talk a little bit about what I was saying. We wanted to review again, just briefly, the prospect awareness levels. So 5 basic levels, and this comes from a marketer named Eugene Schwartz from like the early 1900s is when this was originally created. But because it's based on people, it's basically universal and timeless. So his scale, they calls it the most aware, the product aware, the solution aware, or the problem aware, and the completely unaware person. So again, the most aware person, these are your hottest audiences towards the bottom of the funnel, but doesn't always necessarily mean that they've purchased, but most likely they probably have purchased from you in the past, or they just really love you as a fan. So they know they like you, they trust you, probably have already bought, not necessarily. Problem aware or some product aware, this is the warm audience looking at middle and bottom of funnel. They know who you are, they know what you sell, they know what you do, they know about your products or your services, but they haven't been fully convinced for whatever reason that your thing is the right one for them. And in that case, it was a product aware, it's either generally the reason that they haven't bought yet if they're product aware is either for some reason they don't feel there's enough value in the exchange of whatever they're going to pay for it. And sometimes that is based on the problem hasn't been defined clearly enough for them. Like they don't quite yet see that your product or service is going to absolutely solve their issue, or that it's close enough and you have a guarantee that takes away all the risk from them and puts it onto you. We've talked a little bit about guarantees and risk reversals in the past, I believe. Is that correct? Or does anybody have questions about those off the top of your head? 1, 2, 3, no, cool. Next level is the solution aware. They know they have a problem, right? And they know there is a fix to that problem and they're searching for it, right? So this is, you might, if you're looking at like a Facebook ads or something similar, this would fit into that consideration phase, right? So they're actively searching for something and they're considering things. This is also, if I understand correctly, this is a great part of the scale where your Google advertisements are going to be there, right? Because intent based, they intend to find an answer to something. And so they're actively searching for it. prior to that one, you have the problem where this is the people like, "Hey, I know there's something wrong. You know, my hair is always dry and brittle. My skin is breaking out. I'm gaining more weight than I want to. I'm losing more weight than I want to. Um, the little blinky light in my car keeps coming on, right? So there's a problem. And so they recognize that part, but that's all they know. They haven't started the journey to search for what's going on. And then the unaware people are just, you know, you wonder how they get up in the morning and put their shoes on sometimes, because they're just completely unaware. They're oblivious to problems in their lives or even desires that they want to have, right? These people may not even have clear goals that they want for their life. So they have no target in life. And if you have no target, you know, there's no reason to buy stuff, you know, or to try to search for a solution to something outside of the basic needs. So are we, does that part make sense? Do you guys already have this document? If not, in fact, it doesn't even matter. I will just drop a link to it so you guys can have a copy. Because I know we got
Thanks,
some newer
Jesus.
people. Yeah. Okay, cool. And so along,
that I have. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, like studying this stuff is good, but sometimes I have a hard time applying it
Mhm.
or knowing where to start. So it's like the lack of application that I get a bit hung up on,
Right on.
which I don't do that much copying for my job. So that's part of the problem. Is I'm not using it. I'm not practicing enough.
Right on. So that kind of is a perfect aspect to look at this slide here. So when we're starting with something, you know, whether it's a product or a service description, or if it's a campaign or something, ideally, we want to be able to define these things before we start, right? What's the purpose? What are we trying to accomplish in this particular piece that we're going to put together? Who are we writing it to? Who are we writing for? What section of that product prospect awareness scale are we trying to communicate with? And what message are we trying to convey to them? Another piece on here, I think. Yeah, let me drop, I'll just reshare all these real quick. Do. Yeah, so the messaging is part of branding. So this is how you want to be seen in the marketplace. This is kind of a big overview. I was making notes one day, but I figured it's a good time to kind of check on it. So yeah, messaging as part of your branding is how do you want to be seen in the marketplace, right? How do you want to show up? Messaging is part of your marketing, the beliefs and the conclusions that you want people to come to in order to take specific actions, right? Which matches up with this piece. You know, what's the purpose, who you're writing for, who you're writing to, who you're writing for. What's an offer? So essentially the offer is the thing that people are exchanging their time, energy, or money to get, right? And how you construct the offer is a whole different training piece, but just understand that if we're asking somebody to give us either their attention or their money, then there's got to be something that they value enough to exchange those pieces for it. And that's really it, right? Like you could ultimately boil down all commerce and all business to really all human interaction is an exchange of time for time or time for money, or it's, you know, I'm giving you something because I feel I'm getting a value back, you know. And that might on one level that might seem kind of cold and unfeeling, but if you look at this next one, right, this is the way most people respond. This is how they deal with things, is the what's in it for me, right? So I always make a joke, and I didn't create the joke, but it's like, what is what's a customer's favorite radio station, and it's WIIFM. So it's what's in it for me, right? And even if you want to, even if you're like, no, I'm a selfless person, I want to give and give and give, like I give to charity, or I want to create a charity, I want to do these things, I want to help people, which is great, but ultimately there's a give back. There's a reason that you're doing that, and I'm not currently convinced that anybody is outside of that aspect of just looking for one of these motivators, right? So even if you're everything you do is charitable and you're just giving and you want to help the world do things, to me, it's still going to fall mostly in this, because a person is looking for praise, or they want to feel more love, or they want to have increased social status. Like I said, people can say that's not what they're doing it for, but like I said, as of right now, I'm not convinced that it's necessarily outside of one of those. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
also be the increased social status for their group or something like that, which is the same thing you're saying, but
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. Like some people will think it's, well, if you're giving so that you get something back, it's bad. It's not. I mean, it's not like, you have to breathe in and you have to breathe out, right? There's a cycle to everything. And I don't, if you're not working in one of these things that motivates you to do some sort of action, it's so far outside of like like what I can conceive, it's difficult to even think about. So, but I'm open to it. So if you guys have different philosophies and you think you can explain it in a different way, I'm totally open to listening to it. But otherwise,
we're also not selling to Buddha
right.
or Jesus or someone like that.
That I mean, I kind of feel like that's the thing, man. Like outside of supernatural, spiritual, higher level beings that people may or may not believe in, dude, like humans have motivation. And I have that on one of these too, right? And these motivations or these emotions are based around these four things usually: validation, excitement, security, or purpose, right? And so I remember we talked about this once before, and that's why I had this particular category here. These save money, make money, save time, escape mental or physical pain, avoid effort, get more comfort, achieve greater cleanliness or hygiene, attain better health, gain praise or feel more love, and increase social status. That's kind of that classic 10 reasons people buy that we've talked about over multiple times for years. That particular list came from Jim Edwards and his Copywriting Secrets book, but it's a great list. And then I overlaid, to the best of my personal ability, those four things with these 10, that we could see how they kind of fall. And again, I'm going to want to kind of pause here and get some feedback. Does this part make sense so far as well? It's totally okay. You guys can unmute and say whatever you want.
Yes, this makes sense.
Okay. And somebody's got a chat. Bryce is saying yes in the chat. I know some people are trying to work at the same time. So Priscilla,
Alan,
yes, psychology.
If you don't mind, Alan, I would love to see how your team has successfully applied this, if you have any examples. Because you guys are doing really, really well. So whether it's intentional or not.
You mean my team?
Yeah, because I mean, you guys have been doing very successful. So even if you weren't intentionally applying this, exact philosophy, but I would love to see something that you see's got a lot of engagement. If you don't mind, Jesus. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted people to bring some of the creatives that they've been using lately.
Hmm.
Especially since Natural Slim just had such a killer month. Is there anything that stands out, Alan, that you can think about as far as any particular posts or creative images or videos or?
I didn't do that homework of bringing in the creatives.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you knew offhand, if you were familiar with kind of the pieces that are the post or the ads or whatever that are running that are getting like a really high responses or clicks or anything.
Sam,
Mhm.
you got, I know we post a lot, like
Right.
it's like 5 profiles where we post organically. We're on the side of ads. I know we use Frank's content because he's like our best weapon because he sells so well. So if we use his videos where he's just I know he doesn't really sell people, and that's something that I was listening into Jason Flatland's
Mm.
interview with Manuel as well, and he mentions this like I don't like my copy to be persuading or that I'm convincing people to buy or whatever I want. I'm just making them aware like of the like the issues they have or the problem that uh, this product is going to solve. So I
Right.
think Frank has a lot of that on his videos where
Yeah.
he just goes into the subject and it's just explaining like you're gonna have the symptoms, you're gonna be feeling this, and this is how it will slow down your metabolism, and this is the fix. So the selling is like very smooth in his
Yeah.
video.
So, and I think Frank does, he's always had done a great job with that. So if we look at it, if we, with these pieces that we've just been talking about, the whole overall concept that he's promoting, if we don't want to use the word selling, but he's promoting is the greater health concept,
Mhm.
right? And we know that that's a major motivator for people, but only if they're in that level of awareness that they understand that there's a problem, usually, right? So if they're in that, go back to change thing, share screen. Yeah, so I think a lot of the Natural Slim top of funnel content with all the organic posts, right? What are we up to? Like 3,000 or 4,000 posts a month or something like that. And as far
Yeah,
as the right, so I feel as though most of it focuses here on this problem aware aspect, so that the reason that people, as Frank puts out the information, right? He's like, I want to help the world do it, right? Which puts him, as far as what I can tell, as far as why people do things, he was working from purpose, right? His purpose of life was to make a healthier world. And in doing so, in his top of the funnel organic content, where he was talking about health and like, here's what you might experience and here's how you can potentially fix it, resonated very well with anybody in this problem aware aspect, right? So whether they're scrolling social media for the first time and they see him, or they're in that top to middle of funnel, something about his content, the topic, whether it was talking about the liver or obesity or diabetes or whatever it is, caught that attention, right, of somebody who was in this problem aware stage, which allowed them to now shift into the solution aware, because Frank's like, hey, here's a problem that a lot of people have. Here's what you might experience if you have this problem, right? So we're problem aware. And a potential fix for it is, you take a magnesium supplement, or, you take metabolic vitamins, and you can get whatever you want, but this is the one that I have. These are the ones that we trust. And if you want them, you can get them. But otherwise, you use those things to solve your problem, right? And of course, that also within the one video, he can cover a problem aware, move somebody to a solution aware, and even make them product aware, all within 8 minutes, of one of his videos. And then even if a person doesn't choose to buy at that point, right, they're floating in this product aware and most aware stage. until they decide, you know what, I do want that piece. I do want that product. I do want that. So I want to use that product or service to help me solve the problem that brought me into the funnel.
Jesus,
Yes.
what we've seen that works with organic posts is
Mhm.
that people likes concrete information, like magnesium works because, or you have to take metabolic vitamins for this reason. Like they don't like to read much more information than what we have to tell them. Like this
Sure.
works because of this reason.
Right.
Yeah,
But
that
so
they like concrete information and that it's easy to read.
sure. I totally agree with that. Do you do you feel that the way I explained it just now makes sense, or was I off base, do you think?
No, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like the people convince themselves, like, yeah, that's what I need. After
Right.
going through all that enlightenment, they
Mhm.
just that's the next thing to do.
Yeah. And then it seems like most of them start to hang around and follow because, now all of a sudden they've discovered this new personality there's entertaining, he's educational, I imagine for a lot of people, they can relate to somebody like Frank as like a father figure, or, just like an older brother or somebody who, that they would look up to, who has their safety and security in mind. Right. And that's
Yeah.
attractive also for a lot of people.
Yeah,
So
totally.
So Jesus, would you say that their audience is like maybe solution aware for the most part,
I imagine
or
they're
problem
they're
aware?
they're either problem or solution aware when they first discover him. Yeah.
And that's why they want content that says magnesium helps with.
Right. Because if they're, like I was saying, if they're just problem aware and then they kind of stumble on the content, if he's talking about the problem they have, right, that's kind of that instant hook that makes them stop and watch for a second. But if they're solution aware and they're actively searching for things, that could be more where like the targeting, whatever. I know we don't spend a whole lot in ratio on paid advertisement and stuff, but we have like the branded keywords and non-branded keywords and things, I think. And so if people are actively searching for an answer to something, then it has a greater potential, right? The Googles and Facebooks have a greater potential of delivering Frank's content to them. And really, I guess even not necessarily through paid, but if the algorithms and the platforms recognize that somebody is in the search, right? They're in that solution aware phase where they're searching for an answer. And then if the platforms go, here's content that matches what they want, and it can then deliver stuff to them. If I understand how the platforms are working now.
Yeah, most of our people has health issues, so they like to see the solutions.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense, Rob? So the question.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And now, but generally, maybe for you guys on the Amazon side, it might be like how do you take this information and use it over there? Which maybe is a discussion for another time that we could sit down and try to figure something out. But I mean, you guys are killing it anyway on Amazon. So
I think it has to, in my opinion, it has to be bottom of the funnel because they're already looking for a product.
Yeah.
And they're on a platform that is only a buying platform.
Right.
So at best, they're product aware or solution aware.
Yeah.
But they're looking for that. They already read some article that says magnesium helps blah blah. They're looking for a magnesium supplement.
Yeah.
So
because I guess you can use, right, that's part of the Amazon keywords, and there's like backend keywords and visible keywords or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so just like if they're searching on Google for it, because that's an intent-based thing. So Amazon, to me, seems still like an intent-based search platform when you are solution or product aware.
We found like magnesium helps with many different conditions, but we found
Mhm.
if we do PPC or target the condition-based keywords, they don't convert as well.
Okay.
And my theory on that is because the customer is still looking around and they're still trying to figure out what they want.
Yeah.
But if they're typing in, you know, magnesium citrate powder, they see our listing. They've
Yeah.
already decided to buy that, to buy some type of it, and we gotta get them to choose
Right.
our brand. So
So that would still put them in product aware, even though they may not know the brand name yet.
exactly.
And then, so, but it's interesting too. So, because now we can see like somebody who's in a solution aware stage across social media and the internet. We can see now how all the strategies that we use, right, for that, all the organic stuff and even some of the ads creates that massive like halo effect that then gets people to see content and then go, let me go to Amazon and see if I can find something like that.
Exactly.
Anyway, we've got like 3 minutes left. We could continue talking about this for a long time, but let's wrap up. Any final potential questions or anything? Or if there was somebody who wanted to share something that we didn't get to, we got 3 minutes. Jose, maybe we can use something like a 5 points of the low energy or tips like that. Yeah. Yeah, you can always, if that's part of the concept, right? Is when you're creating the stuff for the first time, is to think about these categories. Where is the person currently in their journey to getting something, and how can you fit your product or service and your content into those different pieces. Paulina's got here, or rewriting the FAQs. People like to see how the product works, taste, personal experience, etc. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I've got for you guys today for the most part. It is a big subject and it's something that we can talk about over and over. And there's always a chance to get even better than you already are with all this material. So I'll wrap it up with that unless there's last questions. I see a couple of thank yous. Thank you. You guys are totally welcome. Always glad to be here and offer some information. And cool. With that, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. For me, I feel like if doing this every week, kind of like sometimes I get busy and then I forget, and then I feel it's like it would be disrespectful to you guys. So I'm gonna try, and I'll double check with Ollie to make sure it's okay, and just we'll set them like every other week. So cool.
Happy
Cool.
wizarding.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Welcome. See you guys.